Mur gave me a smug look, curling and uncurling one tentacle like a yo-yo. "Told you it was a waste of credits," he said. I sighed. If those human ships were here, it wouldn't be. This stuff is prime Earth nostalgia. The small pile of items on the hover sled had seemed so full of promise when I'd bought it at our last stop. Cat posters, harmonicas, and a dozen packs of googly eyes. "Pity we're far from Earth," Mur said. "Yeah," I agreed, eyeing the locals of this alien marketplace. Lots of scales and exoskeletons. Not many hands that would appreciate the softness of a cat's fur, and very few mouth parts that would be able to do much with a harmonica. The merchant I'd gotten the stuff from had been a heat seeker all too happy to unload her stock of cut-rate human nonsense. These folks would likely have similar opinions. I said, "At least it doesn't expire?" Mur straightened the individually boxed harmonicas. "And it shouldn't take up too much space in your quarters until we meet up with more humans eventually. The captain won't want to hang around here waiting for them to show up." "True," I admitted. It was gossip from our last stop that had told me they'd be here now. I should have known better than to trust it. "Well, back to the ship," Mur announced. "Maybe you can cheer yourself up by decorating your quarters with eyeballs." I had to smile at that. "Maybe." He was already walking back to where we'd parked, on the far side of an over-cultivated garden area. I towed the hover sled after him. Then I caught sight of some locals who'd run afoul of multiple bird-like beasties, and an idea started to form. The locals, a half-dozen heat seekers, whose scales ranged from red to pale yellow, were trying to eat a nice lunch at the dining section of the garden. The squawking bird things, which were half lizardy with speckled brown feathers and wide beaks, had apparently claimed the bushes for their own. They were contesting this claim by spitting at the heat seekers every time their backs were turned. These looked like pretty gross spitballs, impressive for birds. It occurred to me that I'd seen those feathery characters all over the place here. A look behind confirmed it. They lurked in nearly every tree I could see. And judging by the way the locals were abandoning this picnic table, they were a known hazard. They still only spat at fleeing enemies, hiding or freezing in place when pinned by eye contact. And that was my idea. "Hey, Mur," I said, "I'll bet you one shanty sung on a table that I can sell some of these googly eyes right now." He stopped and looked around, full of skepticism. "To who? Do you take the bet?" "Ah, sure. There's no way anyone here is interested." "You say that now," I said, grabbing a pack and waving down one of the hurrying locals. "But you don't know how we deal with tigers and magpies." "With what?" I didn't answer, busy as I was explaining to the local that the false eyes were adhesive and would give the impression of eye contact from both directions. They were just as interested as I'd thought they'd be. After a demonstration, during which I strolled through the picnic area and didn't get a single spitball on me, the birds were unsettled, and the locals were more than happy to buy everything I had. This was a new colony town, you see, and no one had come up with a good solution for the annoying fauna that came with the territory. But these folks were prepared to make everyone's day. They certainly made mine. That was 5 times as much as I'd paid for the stuff in the first place, and they didn't even want the posters and harmonicas. I waved goodbye, but they weren't paying attention, so I turned my grin on Mur instead. He had draped a tentacle around his pointy squid head in exasperation. "I knew I shouldn't have taken the bet," he declared, "but I was so sure it was pointless. And I am sure that whichever song you choose to regale us with at dinner time will be delightful," I said, tugging the hovercart around the bushes. The birds watched me carefully, noting the eyes still stuck to my hair, and leaving us both alone. "If it's a song I know, maybe I can play a backup melody with a harmonica,"